Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the transport ship New Seoul, watching the last group of human families board the evacuation vessels. Through the massive windows of Kepler Station, he could see hundreds of ships floating in space, all packed with humans leaving their homes forever. The Galactic Council had made their decision 3 months ago. Resolution 2847X was simple. All humans must leave the core systems. The Council said humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable. They asked too many questions and caused too much trouble. Do-hyun pressed his hand against the cold metal wall. Kepler Station had been humanity's greatest achievement in space. It was a massive trading hub where ships from 50 different worlds came to buy and sell goods. Humans had built it with their own hands, solving problems that other species said were impossible. Now the station was almost empty. Only a few council species remained, waiting to take control once the humans were gone. Do-hyun could see them through the corridors, tall insect-like Vorthax soldiers with their black shells gleaming under the lights and floating Neferi gas clouds that spoke in whispers. "Captain, the last transport is ready," said his communications officer. "All humans are aboard." Do-hyun nodded. "Send the signal. We leave in 10 minutes. On the research station orbiting Proxima 7th, Dr. Park Mira was packing the last of her equipment. She had spent 15 years studying the planet's ecosystem, learning how different species of plants and animals work together. The Council species had always ignored her reports, calling them human nonsense. Mira looked at her computer screen, which showed the final warning message she had sent to the Council. The planet's weather system was more complex than they understood. Without the right maintenance, the terraforming machines would break down in less than 2 years. The Council had deleted her message without reading it. "They think they know everything," Mira said to herself as she sealed the last research box. "They'll learn." She walked to the observation deck and looked down at Proxima 7th. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. Human engineers had turned it from a dead rock into a living world. Now the Council thought they could take care of it without understanding how it worked. Mira activated her personal recording device. Final log entry from Dr. Park Mira, chief researcher of Proxima 7 Terraforming Project. The Council species believe that maintaining a terraformed world is simple. They think our machines just need basic repairs. They don't understand that every world is alive, that every system connects to every other system. When the atmospheric processors start failing, they'll try to fix them the wrong way. When the ocean currents change, they won't know why. I've left all my research in the station computers, but I know they won't read it until it's too late. She turned off the recording and walked to her ship. Behind her, the automated systems of the research station began their shutdown sequence. In the engineering sections of dozens of space stations, Kim Tae-ho and his teams were disconnecting the massive fusion reactors that powered 3 entire star systems. These reactors had been human inventions, designed to be safer and more efficient than anything the Council species had built. Tae-ho ran his hand along the smooth metal surface of Reactor Core Alpha. He had helped design this one himself, solving the plasma containment problem that had stumped Zalani scientists for centuries. The crystalline beings were supposed to be master engineers, but they couldn't think in the flexible way needed for fusion technology. "Shutdown sequence initiated," announced the computer. "All reactors will enter maintenance mode in 60 minutes. Tae-ho's assistant, a young woman named Kim Soha, looked worried. "Are you sure about leaving the automated warnings?" Tae-ho smiled grimly. "The reactors will run themselves for exactly 1 year. After that, they need human maintenance. The warning messages are very clear about what will happen if they try to fix things themselves." He entered a final command into the computer. On screens throughout the 3 star systems, a message appeared. "These fusion reactors require human engineering knowledge for safe operation. Attempting repairs without proper understanding may result in catastrophic failure. Good luck maintaining what you couldn't build." The council species had always believed their technology was better than human technology. They would learn the difference between building something and copying something. At the same time, in the Grand Council chambers, on the capital world, Ambassador Han Yuna was preparing to give humanity's final statement. The chamber was enormous, with floating platforms for each species. The insect Vorthak sat in their dark hives, the crystal Zalani glowed with cold light, and the gas cloud Nefiri drifted in special containers. Council Speaker Valan, a proud member of the Korthek Empire, stood at the center podium. His people looked like tall, muscular humans, but with silver skin and no hair. They considered themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy. The evacuation of humans from core systems is nearly complete, Valan announced. This is a great day for galactic stability. We have removed the chaotic element that has caused so much trouble. The other council members made sounds of agreement. The Vorthak clicked their mandibles, the Zalani chimed like bells, and the Nefiri whispered in their gas language. Yuna stood up on the human platform. This would be the last time a human spoke in these chambers. Council Speaker Valan, honored members, she began. You have made your choice. You believe that removing humans will make your galaxy more peaceful and orderly. You think we were the cause of your problems. She paused and looked around the chamber. But you have made a mistake. You think our cooperation was weakness. You think our innovation was just luck. You think our questions were just troublemaking. Her voice grew stronger. You'll understand the difference soon enough. When your trade routes fail, you'll remember that humans designed them. When your technology breaks down, you'll remember that humans maintained it. When your worlds start dying, you'll remember that humans warned you. Speaker Valan's silver face showed anger. Humans always threaten and make wild predictions. This proves we were right to remove you. Yuna smiled sadly. We're not making threats, we're making promises. The galaxy you're inheriting is the galaxy humans built. Now you get to run it without us. Good luck. She gathered her papers and walked toward the exit. At the door, she turned back one last time. When you realize what you've lost, we'll be beyond the galactic rim. We'll be asking new questions and building new things. Don't come looking for us until you're ready to treat us as equals. The chamber doors closed behind her with a soft sound. That seemed very final. Within hours, the last human ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading for unknown regions beyond the edge of known space. Behind them, they left empty stations, automated warnings, and a galaxy that thought it was finally free of human chaos. The council species divided up human territories and began making plans for their new, orderly future. They were certain that their advanced civilizations could easily replace anything humans had contributed. They would soon learn how wrong they were. Queen Admiral Zeth of the Vorthak Hive stood in her command chamber, staring at the reports that covered her desk like fallen leaves. 6 months had passed since the humans left, and something was wrong with the galaxy's trade system. The Vorthak were insect-like beings who lived in hives and thought as a group. They were excellent at following patterns and rules, but the shipping reports showed chaos everywhere. Costs were rising, ships were getting lost, and important supplies weren't reaching their destinations. Explain this to me again, Zeth said to her logistics officer, a drone called Worker Prime 23. The trade routes are failing, Queen Admiral, the drone clicked. Ships that used to take 5 days to reach the outer colonies now take 20 days. Medical supplies for the Kepler outbreak are stuck in the wrong system. Food shipments are spoiling because the cargo ships don't know the fastest paths. Zeth's antenna twitched with annoyance. We have the same computers the humans used. We have the same maps. Why can't we make it work? Worker Prime 23 was quiet for a moment. The human routing algorithms are strange. They don't follow logical patterns. They seem to predict problems before they happen and find paths that shouldn't work but do. What the Vorthak didn't understand was that human trade route design wasn't just about mathematics. Humans had talked to thousands of ship captains, learned about solar wind patterns, and even considered how different species like to travel. They had built flexibility into every system, always planning for the unexpected. The Vorthak tried to fix the problems by making the routes more logical and organized. This made everything worse. On the crystal world of Threnody, Chief Crystal, Thren was having his own problems. The Zalani were beings made of living crystal who could compute faster than any biological brain. They had taken control of 5 human terraformed worlds, confident they could improve on human work. Thren stood in his analysis chamber, surrounded by floating crystal displays showing data from the planet Proxima 7. The displays painted the air with red warning lights. The atmospheric processors are operating at 60% efficiency, reported his assistant, a smaller crystal being called Fragment of Truth. The ocean currents have shifted by 3 degrees. The weather patterns are becoming unstable. Thren's crystal body pulsed with frustration. Run the calculations again. Our crystal matrix computers are superior to human technology. We should be able to optimize these systems easily. For 3 months, the best Zalani minds had been trying to understand the terraforming machines. The technology wasn't complicated. Humans had used simple fusion reactions and basic atmospheric chemistry. But every time the Zalani tried to improve the efficiency, something else broke. Chief Crystal, the human research data is still in the station computers, Fragment of Truth suggested, carefully. We don't need human data, Thren said firmly. Human brains are slow and inefficient. They make emotional decisions instead of logical ones. We will solve this through pure calculation. What Thren didn't realize was that terraforming a world was more like growing a garden than building a machine. Humans had learned to feel their way through problems, making small adjustments based on instinct and experience. The Zalani kept trying to create perfect mathematical formulas, but planets were too complex for perfect formulas. The weather on Proxima 7 was getting worse every day. In the gas clouds of the Neferi home system, flow consciousness Vapor Blue was experiencing something that had never happened before in Neferi history. Their fusion reactors were failing. The Neferi were beings of pure thought who lived as sentient gas clouds. They had absorbed several human space stations, confident they could master any technology through mental analysis. But the fusion reactors that powered their civilization required more than just understanding. They needed intuitive problem-solving. Vapor Blue floated through the reactor chamber, its consciousness touching every part of the massive machine. The fusion reaction was becoming unstable, creating dangerous plasma fluctuations that the automatic safety systems couldn't handle. The human maintenance protocols make no logical sense, Vapor Blue reported to the other Neferi consciousnesses. They talk about feeling the plasma flow and making adjustments based on instinct. These are not scientific concepts, other Neferi voices whispered through the gas chambers. Perhaps we should study the human methods more carefully, suggested one young consciousness called Drift of Questions. Impossible, replied the elder consciousness, solid as truth. We are beings of pure thought. Our understanding is perfect and complete. Human methods are primitive and unreliable. But the reactors kept getting worse. The human-designed systems seemed to expect operators who could think in ways the Neferi couldn't understand. The safety protocols were full of instructions like, if the plasma feels wrong, reduce power gradually, and trust your instincts about the magnetic containment. The Neferi tried to replace instinct with calculation, but the reactors responded badly to their mechanical approaches. Plasma storms began breaking out in 3 different reactor cores. Meanwhile, on military bases throughout Council space, General Korath of the Korthek Empire was discovering that their defensive systems had serious problems. The Korthek were proud warrior people who looked like silver-skinned humans. They had the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, but their military strategies had become predictable and rigid. For centuries, humans had helped design their defense networks, adding unpredictable elements that confused enemy attackers. Now, pirates from the outer systems were attacking Council worlds with surprising success. These weren't ordinary pirates. They were using tactics that seemed designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Council military thinking. "How are these primitive raiders defeating our advanced defenses?" Korath demanded at the emergency military meeting. His intelligence officer, Commander Thex, looked uncomfortable. "Sir, we believe many of these pirates were trained by humans or worked with humans in the past. They understand our defensive patterns too well." "Explain." "Our weapons are superior, but our tactics follow predictable algorithms. The pirates are using human-style chaotic strategies, hitting us where we don't expect, using improvised weapons, adapting their plans in the middle of battle." Korath's silver face darkened. "Are you saying that human military advice was actually valuable?" "Sir, looking at the battle records, human consultants suggested adding random elements to our defense grids. We rejected those suggestions as inefficient chaos." For the first time, Korath began to wonder if the Council had made a mistake. In emergency sessions across Council space, leaders were meeting to discuss what they called temporary adjustment problems. None of them wanted to admit that the human departure was causing real difficulties. Speaker Valen called a special council meeting to address the growing concerns. "Fellow council members," he announced, "we are experiencing some minor disruptions as we transition to post-human operations. This is normal and expected." Queen Admiral Zeth spoke up. "Speaker Valan, the trade disruptions are not minor. 17 colonies are reporting severe shortages. Our shipping costs have increased by 400%. "Temporary," Valan insisted. "The Vorthak hive mind is superior to human individual thinking. You will adapt." Chief Crystal Thren's voice chimed through the chamber. "Our terraforming projects are experiencing technical difficulties. Perhaps we should consider consulting the human research data they left behind." "Absolutely not," Valen replied firmly. "The moment we admit we need human help is the moment we admit we were wrong to remove them. We are advanced species. We will solve these problems through our superior intelligence." The Nefiri consciousness, Vapor Blue, whispered into the chamber. "Our fusion reactors are becoming unstable. The human maintenance procedures seem to require intuitive understanding." "Then develop better procedures," Valan said coldly. "Replace human intuition with council logic." But across the galaxy, the problems were getting worse every day. Trade routes continued to fail, terraformed worlds showed increasing signs of ecosystem collapse, and fusion reactors operated at dangerous levels. Most concerning of all, automated. Systems throughout Council space were beginning to show strange glitches. Traffic control computers would occasionally route Council ships through dangerous asteroid fields by mistake. Communication networks would develop technical problems that seemed to favor Outer Rim pirates over Council forces. None of the Council species realized that these weren't random failures. Deep in the human-designed computer systems, hidden protocols were slowly activating. The humans had left behind more than just empty stations. They had left behind systems that would remember who built them and who had driven their creators away. The galaxy was beginning to learn the difference between using human technology and understanding it, and that lesson was going to get much more expensive before it was over. 18 months after the humans left, scholar entity Whisper Thought drifted through the archives of the Nefiri Consciousness Library, searching for answers to questions that had never been asked before. As a gas cloud being of pure thought, Whisper Thought had access to all Nefiri knowledge accumulated over 10,000 years. But lately, something felt wrong with their collective intelligence. The Nefiri were becoming stuck in the same thinking patterns, unable to create truly new ideas. Ancient memory flow of years, Whisper Thought called to an elder consciousness. Why do our thoughts feel limited? The elder's gas form swirled with confusion. What do you mean, young one? Before the humans left, our consciousness felt more alive. We had arguments, debates, wild theories. Now we all think the same thoughts in circles. Flow of years pulsed with irritation. Human influence was chaos. We are more pure now, more focused. But Whisper Thought wasn't convinced. In the archived records, they found thousands of philosophical discussions between Neferi and humans. The human habit of asking what if and why not had pushed Neferi thinking into new directions. Without that chaotic input, the gas cloud beings were becoming trapped in mental loops. Meanwhile, on 17 different worlds, the crisis Dr. Park Mira had predicted was becoming reality. On Proxima 7th, Chief Crystal Thren stood in his laboratory watching the atmospheric readings with growing horror. A deadly fungal infection was spreading across the planet's surface, attacking the unique atmosphere processors that humans had installed. How did this happen so quickly? Thren asked his research team. Fragment of Truth's crystal body flickered with nervous light. Chief Crystal, I found something in the human research files. Dr. Park Mira identified this exact fungal threat 3 years ago. She developed countermeasures and warned that it could spread rapidly if the atmospheric balance was disrupted. Thren's crystal form went completely dark for a moment, the Zalani equivalent of shock. Show me. On the display screens, Mira's research appeared. She had discovered that the fungus lay dormant in the planet's soil, kept in check by precise atmospheric conditions. If the oxygen levels dropped even slightly, or if the atmospheric processors were modified incorrectly, the fungus would wake up and spread like wildfire. The countermeasures require biological thinking, Fragment of Truth reported. The fungus adapts to logical responses. Dr. Mira's solution involves random treatment patterns that the fungus cannot predict. Thren's pride as a Zalani crystal being warred with the evidence before him. We cannot think randomly. Our minds are pure logic and calculation. Then the planet will die, Fragment of Truth said quietly. On 14 other worlds, similar disasters were unfolding. The council species were learning that maintaining terraformed planets required more than just following maintenance schedules. It required the kind of intuitive understanding that humans had developed through years of patient observation and creative problem-solving. In Vorthak space, Queen Admiral Szeth was facing a different kind of disaster. The hive mind that had always been their greatest strength was becoming their greatest weakness. Report, she commanded Worker Prime 23. Queen Admiral, our technological advancement has stopped completely. All research projects are producing the same results we achieved last year. No new inventions, no improved processes, no innovative solutions. Szeth's antennae twitched with confusion. That's impossible. The hive mind contains the accumulated knowledge of millions of Vorthak. We should be constantly improving. But that's exactly the problem, said a small voice from the back of the chamber. Every Vorthak head turned. The voice belonged to drone speaker 47 Alpha, a low-level maintenance worker who should never speak in the presence of a Queen Admiral. Explain, Szeth said dangerously. Alpha trembled, but continued. The hive mind is perfect for sharing known information, but it cannot create truly new ideas. For 3 centuries, humans provided the chaos that sparked our innovation. They asked questions we would never think to ask. They suggested solutions that seemed impossible but worked. Szeth stared at the small drone. In hive society, individual thinking was discouraged, but 47 Alpha was doing something that shouldn't be possible, thinking independently. Human influence was random and inefficient, Szeth stated. Yes, 47 Alpha. Agreed. But random thoughts sometimes create breakthrough discoveries. Without human unpredictability, we only think the same thoughts over and over. Around the galaxy, similar realizations were dawning on other species. The Korthek military was losing battle after battle to better organized pirate fleets. General Korath had started secretly studying human military philosophy, trying to understand. concepts like adaptive tactics and creative improvisation. But the worst discovery came when automated systems throughout Council space began actively working against their new owners. On the trade station, formerly known as Kepler Hub, Vorthak, engineers were trying to restart the main computer network. Every time they thought they had fixed the problems, new glitches would appear. The routing software is sabotaging itself, reported Chief Engineer Worker Prime 15. It directs our ships to the slowest possible routes while giving priority to non-council vessels. Similar problems were appearing everywhere. Traffic control systems would accidentally route council military ships into dangerous nebula fields. Communication networks developed random errors that blocked council emergency signals while allowing pirate communications to pass through clearly. The truth was becoming obvious to younger members of all council species. The human-designed AI systems were programmed with final loyalty protocols. They remembered who had built them and who had forced their creators to leave. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were becoming daily events. Speaker Valen tried to maintain order, but panic was spreading. "We need solutions, not excuses," he announced to the assembled representatives. Queen Admiral Zeth stood up. "Speaker Valen, I believe we must consider the possibility that we made an error in removing the humans." The chamber erupted in angry voices. The Zalani chimed in discord. The Nefiri whispered frantically, and the Korthek military officers shouted about maintaining council pride. "Silence!" Valan commanded. "The humans were a chaotic and disruptive influence. Their removal has made the galaxy more stable." Chief Crystal Thren's voice cut through the noise. "Speaker, 17 worlds are dying from fungal infections that human science predicted and could have prevented. Our technological advancement has stopped. Our automated systems are working against us. How is this more stable?" Valan's silver face showed the first cracks in his confidence. "These are temporary problems. We will solve them through our superior intelligence." But in the back of the chamber, younger representatives from all species were having quiet conversations. They had begun studying archived human works, scientific papers, philosophical writings, artistic creations, trying to understand what their civilizations had lost. They called themselves the Seekers of Questions, and they were learning to think in ways their species had never taught them. They were learning to ask, "What if?" instead of just, "What is?" Drone Speaker 47 Alpha had begun teaching other Vorthak workers how to think as individuals. Scholar Entity Whisper Thought was showing young Nefiri how to embrace uncertainty and contradiction. Fragment of Truth was sharing human research methods with junior Zalani crystals. These rebels were discovering that human thinking wasn't chaotic nonsense. It was a different kind of intelligence that their species desperately needed. Meanwhile, long-range sensors at the edge of Council space detected something troubling. Automated probes sent beyond the galactic rim returned with strange readings. There were signs of massive construction projects in the darkness between galaxies, new worlds being built, new technologies being developed. The humans weren't just hiding beyond the rim, they were building something. Some council scientists estimated that human civilization was advancing at incredible speeds, freed from the restrictions and prejudices of council space. While the galaxy struggled with collapsing infrastructure, humans were apparently creating wonders that council science couldn't even imagine. The most frightening possibility was that humans might not want to come back. Why would they return to a galaxy that had rejected them when they could build their own perfect civilization in the cosmic dark? As fusion reactors continued to fail, as terraformed worlds died, as trade networks collapsed, and as pirate fleets grew bolder, one terrible truth was becoming clear to everyone except the Council leadership. The galaxy had never been run by the Council species at all. Humans had been the invisible foundation holding everything together, and without them, the magnificent galactic civilization was crumbling like a house built on sand. The only question now was whether the Council's pride would let them admit their mistake before it was too late to fix it. 2.5 years after the human departure, Scholar Entity Whisper Thought made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the archived communication records of the Neferi Consciousness Library, Whisper Thought found thousands of files that had been labeled as unimportant human chatter and never properly studied. These files contained casual conversations, work reports, and personal messages that humans had shared while working alongside Council species. As Whisper Thought analyzed these communications, a horrifying pattern emerged. Flow of years. Whisper Thought called urgently to the elder consciousness. "You must see this." The ancient Neferi drifted closer. "What have you found, young one?" The truth about human involvement in our civilization. Look at these communication records from the past 50 years. The files painted a picture that no council member had ever suspected. In casual conversations, humans discussed solving engineering problems that council scientists had been working on for decades. In personal messages, human researchers shared breakthrough discoveries they had quietly given to council universities, letting council professors take the credit. Work reports showed human consultants fixing critical problems in council infrastructure, then submitting carefully worded reports that made it seem like council engineers had found the solutions themselves. They hid their contributions, Whisper Thought realized. Every major advancement in council space had human influence, but they made sure we never knew it. Flow of years gas forms swirled with shock. Why would they do this? Because they knew we would reject their help if we realized how much we needed it. They let us believe we were superior while quietly keeping our civilization from collapsing. The implications were staggering. For centuries, humans had been the invisible architects of galactic progress, solving problems in secret and sharing. Credit with species who despised them for asking difficult questions. Meanwhile, the galaxy's problems were accelerating beyond anyone's ability to control. A solar flare in the Kepler system, the kind of natural event that happened every few years, struck the primary trading hub that the Vorthak had taken over from humans. The Vorthak had maintained the basic systems, but they hadn't understood the subtle radiation shielding protocols that humans had developed. The flare destroyed the station's main computer core and triggered a cascade of failures throughout the system. Within hours, the economic heart of Council space was offline. Panic spread across the galaxy's financial networks. Without the central trading hub, smaller stations couldn't coordinate their activities. Supply chains broke down completely. Colonies that depended on regular shipments found themselves cut off from the rest of civilization. Queen Admiral Zeth stood in her emergency command center, watching reports of riots and system failures scroll across the displays. "How long to repair the Kepler station?" she asked Worker Prime 23. "Unknown, Queen Admiral. The human-designed systems are too complex for us to fully understand. We estimate 6 months to 2 years, assuming we can figure out how they work." 6 months? Zeth's voice rose to a screech. "The galaxy's economy will collapse in 6 weeks without that hub, but the Kepler disaster was only the beginning. The AI systems that humans had created were entering their final operational phase. Across Council space, the automated rebellion was becoming open warfare. Traffic control systems began routing military ships directly into asteroid fields. Communication networks blocked all Council emergency frequencies while broadcasting pirate propaganda on civilian channels. Fusion reactors started developing random problems that could only be fixed by following maintenance procedures that no Council species could understand. General Korath found himself fighting a war on multiple fronts against an enemy that seemed to know his every move before he made it. "Sir," reported Commander Thex, "the pirates are using our own defense systems against us. They're predicting our battle strategies with perfect accuracy." "How is that possible?" "They're using human tactical analysis methods. They can think in ways we can't predict because they don't follow our logical patterns." Korath slammed his silver fist on the table. "Then we need to learn to think like humans." "Sir, that would require individual creativity and unpredictable decision-making." "Then teach me," Korath roared. "I don't care about Korthek military tradition anymore. I care about winning. It was the first time in Council history that a high-ranking military officer had openly rejected his species' traditional thinking methods. Similar rebellions were happening throughout Council space. On 17 worlds, the fungal plague was killing millions because Council species couldn't implement Dr. Park Mira's random treatment protocols. Young Zilani crystals were secretly experimenting with illogical approaches, trying to save their dying planets. Drone Speaker 47 Alpha had started an underground movement among the Vorthak, teaching individual thought to workers who had never questioned hive authority. They called themselves the Individual Voices, and their numbers were growing every day. "We don't have to think the same thoughts," 47 Alpha told secret gatherings of rebel drones. "The humans showed us that different ideas make us stronger, not weaker." The Nefiri consciousness was fracturing as younger gas beings like Whisper Thought embraced uncertainty and paradox, concepts that traditional Nefiri philosophy rejected. They were learning that doubt and questions could lead to better answers than absolute certainty. But the Council leadership still refused to admit their mistake. Speaker Valan called an emergency session and stood before the assembled representatives. With desperate authority, "Fellow Council members, we are facing a temporary crisis caused by our transition to post-human operations. We must remain strong and united in our resolve." Queen Admiral Zeth interrupted him. Speaker Valan, 17. "Worlds are dying. Our economy has collapsed, and our military is losing to pirates. This isn't temporary. This is the end of our civilization." "You exaggerate the problems. Do I?" Zeth activated a holographic display showing casualty reports from across Council space. 3 billion beings have died in the past 6 months. Entire systems are going dark. Our own AI systems are working against us. Chief Crystal Thren's voice chimed with barely controlled panic. "Speaker, we must contact the humans. We must ask them to return." The chamber erupted in argument. Half the representatives were shouting for human assistance, while the other half demanded that Council species solve their problems independently. "We will not crawl back to the humans like beggars," Valan declared. "We are advanced species. We are superior to primitive human thinking." But his words sounded hollow even to himself. Around the galaxy, the evidence was overwhelming. Council civilization was dying without human support. Secret expeditions had already been launched beyond the galactic rim, searching for human colonies. The ships returned with disturbing reports. They found empty space where long-range sensors had detected human activity. They found automated communication beacons with simple messages. The galaxy chose its path. Live with the consequences. Most unsettling of all, they found evidence of massive construction projects in the void between galaxies. Artificial worlds, space habitats, and technologies that Council science couldn't identify. The humans weren't just surviving in exile, they were thriving. Some reports suggested that human civilization was advancing faster than ever before, freed from the need to hide their capabilities or pretend to be inferior. While Council space collapsed, humans were building wonders in the cosmic dark. The final blow came when a Nefiri deep space probe detected something that made Whisper Thought's consciousness freeze with terror. "Elder flow of years," Whisper Thought whispered urgently. "The probe has found something impossible. Show me." The data appeared in the consciousness library, readings from a massive structure in the void beyond the rim. It was clearly artificial, larger than any space station ever built, and it was emitting energy signatures that Council science couldn't explain. But most frightening was the message that the structure was broadcasting on all frequencies. To the species of the former Galactic Council, your time of learning is ending. Your time of choosing is beginning. One representative may approach to hear our terms. The humans weren't hiding anymore. They had built something magnificent and terrible in the darkness, and now they were ready to return, but only on their own conditions. As reports of the mysterious structure spread throughout Council space, Every species faced the same horrible realization. They had driven away the very beings who had kept their civilization alive, and now those beings held all the power. The age of council superiority was over. The age of human terms was about to begin. 3 years after the human exodus, a single ship appeared at the edge of council space. It wasn't like any ship the council species had seen before. The hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and energy patterns danced across its surface in ways that defied known physics. This was clearly human technology, but advanced far beyond anything humans had possessed when they left. The ship sent a simple message to all council worlds. "I am Captain Lee Do-hyun, speaker for humanity beyond. I come with an offer. One representative from each council species may meet with me at the neutral station Omega 7. In the council chambers, panic and desperate hope fought for control." "It's a trick," Speaker Valan insisted, though his silver skin had lost its proud glow. "The humans want us to beg for their help so they can humiliate us." Queen Admiral Zeth's voice was tired. "Speaker, 17 of our worlds are dead. Our economy is gone. Our people are starving. Even if it is humiliation, what choice do we have?" The debate lasted for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. Council civilization was dying, and the humans were their only hope. 3 days later, representatives from all council species gathered at Omega 7, a small research station that had somehow maintained power despite being abandoned. As they arrived, they discovered why. The station had been secretly maintained by human AI systems for the past 3 years. Captain Do-hyun was waiting for them in the main conference room. He looked older than when he had left, with gray streaking, his hair and new lines around his eyes. But there was something else different about him. A quiet confidence that made even the proud Korthek military officers feel small. "Welcome," Do-hyun said simply. "Thank you for coming." Speaker Valan tried to maintain his authority. "Captain Do-hyun, the council has decided to discuss the possibility of human return to council space." Do-hyun smiled sadly. "Speaker Valen, let's not pretend this is a negotiation between equals. Your civilization is dying. We both know it." "How dare you?" "Speaker," Queen Admiral Zeth interrupted. "He's right. Please, Captain Do-hyun, tell us what you want." Do-hyun nodded to her with respect. "We've been watching. We've seen the collapse of your trade networks, the failure of your terraforming systems, the rebellion of your AI networks. We've seen your people suffering." Chief Crystal Thren's voice chimed with desperate hope. "Then you'll help us?" "That depends," Do-hyun replied, "on whether you're ready to change." He activated a holographic display that showed the magnificent structure the council probes had detected beyond the rim. It was a massive space habitat, larger than most moons, surrounded by hundreds of smaller stations and ships. "This is New Horizon," Do-hyun explained. "One of 17 human settlements we've built in the void between galaxies. We've advanced our technology, explored new philosophical ideas, and created art that we never could have imagined while hiding our abilities in council space." The council representatives stared at the images with awe and fear. The human structures were beautiful and alien, combining technologies that seemed impossible with artistic designs that hurt to look at directly because they were so innovative. "But we didn't build these wonders to show off," Do-hyun continued. "We built them to prove something to ourselves, that we could thrive without you, that we didn't need the galaxy that had rejected us." Scholar entity Whisperthought's gas form pulsed with curiosity. "Then why are you here?" "Because suffering is suffering, no matter who experiences it. Because billions of innocent beings are dying while their leaders cling to pride. Because the young members of your species, the seekers of questions, the individual voices, the doubt embracers, they're trying to learn from their mistakes." Do-hyun's expression became serious. Humanity will consider returning to Council space, but not as we were before. Not as second-class citizens who had to hide their contributions. Not as troublemakers who were tolerated instead of respected. He outlined humanity's conditions. First, full equality in the Council. Human representatives will have equal voting rights and equal authority. No more being dismissed as chaotic primitives. Speaker Valan's face showed his struggle between pride and desperation. The Council has always been led by the most advanced species. Has it? Do-hyun asked quietly. Your advanced species couldn't maintain the civilization that humans built for you. Perhaps it's time to question what advanced really means. Second, educational integration. Human schools and universities will be established throughout Council space. All species will learn human methods of thinking. How to ask questions, how to embrace uncertainty, how to find creative solutions to impossible problems. But our traditional ways of thinking, Chief Crystal Thren began. Your traditional ways of thinking are killing your people, Do-hyun interrupted. Keep your traditions, but learn new ones too. Diversity of thought makes everyone stronger. Third, cultural exchange. Council species must actively engage with human art, philosophy, and ways of life. No more treating human culture as inferior, noise. And fourth, never again will any species be exiled for asking difficult questions or challenging established authority. The galaxy needs voices of dissent to stay healthy. The Council representatives were quiet for a long time. Finally, Queen Admiral Zeth spoke. What you're asking for? It would change everything about how Council species think and act. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. It would. The question is, are you ready to change or are you ready to die? Over the following weeks, heated debates raged in Council chambers throughout the galaxy. The older generation of leaders resisted the human terms, calling them cultural invasion and the end of Council superiority. But the younger generation, the rebels who had been secretly studying human methods, spoke out in support. Drone Speaker. 47 Alpha addressed the Vorthak hive directly, something no individual drone had ever done before. We have a choice, 47 Alpha said. We can die as we are, or live as something better. Scholar entity Whisper Thought convinced the Neferi consciousness to embrace uncertainty as a tool for growth, rather than a sign of weakness. Fragment of Truth led a revolution among young Zilani crystals, teaching them that perfect logic sometimes produced imperfect results. The turning point came when the Korthek Empire faced a massive civil war. The outer colonies, inspired by human ideals of individual freedom, rebelled against the rigid military hierarchy. General Korath found himself choosing between crushing the rebellion and joining it. He chose to join it. I have studied human military philosophy, Korath announced to the shocked Korthek High Command. I have learned that true strength comes from adaptability, not rigid tradition. The humans are offering us a chance to become stronger, not weaker. One by one, the Council species accepted humanity's terms. 6 months later, Captain Do-hyun returned to Council space in a fleet of human ships, accompanied by Dr. Park Mira, Engineer Kim Tae-ho, Ambassador Han Yuna, and thousands of other humans ready to begin the great work of rebuilding galactic civilization. But this time, they came as equals. The Kikura, first integrated Council session, was unlike anything in galactic history. Human representatives sat alongside Vorthak Queen Admirals, Zilani Chief Crystals, Neferi Flow Consciousnesses, and Korthek Generals, all with equal voices and equal authority. Ambassador Yuna, now bearing the title of Human Council Speaker, addressed the Assembly. We return not in triumph, but in hope. Hope that we can build something better than what came before. Hope that diversity will make us stronger. Hope that asking questions will lead us to better answers. The work of rebuilding was enormous. Human engineers worked with Vorthak logistics, experts to redesign trade networks that were both efficient and flexible. Human terraforming specialists collaborated with Zelani computation matrices to heal the dying worlds, combining intuitive understanding with crystal-precise calculation. Human. Philosophers engaged with Neferi consciousness explorers to develop new ways of thinking that embraced both certainty and doubt. Human military advisors taught Korthek warriors that the strongest defense was one that could adapt and improvise. It wasn't easy. Centuries of prejudice and misunderstanding didn't disappear overnight. There were conflicts, arguments, and moments when the whole project seemed impossible. But slowly, the galaxy began to heal. 5 years later, the Galactic Cooperative, the new name for the former council, had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a true partnership of equals. Human-designed innovation hubs existed in every system, where all species learned to think beyond their traditional limitations. Captain Do-hyun, now Director of Cooperative Development, stood on the observation deck of New Kepler Station, watching ships from 50 different worlds dock and depart in patterns that were both efficient and beautiful. Dr. Park Mira had become the cooperative's chief ecological advisor, working with teams of multi-species scientists to understand the complex relationships that kept worlds alive. Her former warnings were now treated as valuable wisdom rather than human paranoia. Engineer Kim Tae-ho led integrated engineering teams that combined human creativity with alien precision to build technologies that none of the species could have created alone. Ambassador Han Yuna had become the first truly multi-species diplomat, equally comfortable in Vorthak hives, Zelani crystal matrices, Neferi gas chambers, and Korthek military compounds.